On this podcast, you'll find interviews with high-performing, successful individuals in life sciences. On a weekly basis, we cover their proven methods, principles, strategies, and mindsets to implement new technologies that scale to meet the needs of people in our world.
Welcome to Life Science Success Podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Don. I'm a consultant in life sciences. I help companies manage complexity and increase performance. Before we hop into today's interview, I just wanted to quickly mention our new digital media marketing company, who is focused primarily on helping companies establish their digital presence. And so, things like helping with SEO, websites, and getting the message out about your organization is one of the key things that organization is focused on. And so with that, I would like to come back to my guest. In this episode of Life Science Success, my guest is Ralph Hess. Ralph is the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Navigator Business Solutions. Navigator Business Solutions is a global leader in Cloud Based ERP Solutions from SAP AG, and they focus on life sciences industry. So with that, welcome, Ralph.
Good morning, Don. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and I'm really looking forward to this. I mean, we don't do a lot of these interviews with people who have tools and technologies that better enable companies, and so this would be new for a lot of people in terms of kind of the context behind it and things like that. And I'm really looking forward to diving in with you.
Super. Yeah, we really appreciate the opportunity to come on.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So, Ralph, would you mind just telling the listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. From a personal perspective, I've been married for 40 years to the same beautiful woman I met in high school. So I'm kind of an old-fashioned guy in that regard. I've got two sons that I'm incredibly proud of, and an overly engaged grandfather of 6 grandchildren. So that's the personal side of things. From a professional side of things, I've been married to a career for nearly 40 years as well. And during that period of time, I've seen a lot of change in technology, right? I started when there were mainframe computers that went to mini computers, that went to then local area networks and decentralized computing, now back to this revolution of the cloud, which, boy, if you think about it, it's just going back to the way it was, right? So mainframes are really what is now the cloud. And the difference is you got a lot more flexibility and a lot more tools, right? And now we're on the advent of machine learning and AI and ChatGPT and all of these real tremendous technological innovations that really are going to usher in a whole new generation of solutions for businesses. I think one of the things that I like to mention is in my long career, people have always said, well, you've seen all this technology. Isn't that cool? And I said, well, yeah, it's cool. But I had a mentor way, way back in the day, just this old curmudgeon, who told me, listen, don't fall in love with the technology. Fall in love with the way that technology can solve business problems. And that's really been the credo and the motto that I've really embraced my entire career.
Yeah, I mean, that is so important. And also sometimes it's the non-technology approach is the way that we should sort of do things, because yes, it's cool to use the technology, but at the same time, it's not always what's needed. But in terms of the technology that you mentioned, kind of coming in there, especially with ChatGPT, I mean, a lot of people, have talked to me, I know, about, just kind of their fears around it. But at the same time, I look at it as we're going to figure out exactly, how to apply it best and not sort of lose the human side. And I think there will be people that will do plenty of things along the way that will, kind of lose the human side as well. I mean, we're going to fall flat on our face, but we will find our way.
It's the way technology's been the entire time. Actually, it's the way science has been in life science the entire way, right? How many compounds and formulas and elements have been investigated only to hit a dead end? So we work through it as humans, right? As humankind, we work through the challenges and find our way.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're absolutely right, and I look at the absolute enablers that we have through AI, and some of the other technologies that are being provided. I remember, not too long ago, I was standing, in a meeting, and we were talking about, just needing more compute power, and I had asked that question. I said, well, how long will it take? And it's like, well, we'll submit the request within 24 hours. Essentially we'll have the calculations done that we needed to do, and we would have had the compute power, which is amazing. You wouldn't have done that had you have had to go buy more hardware and things like that and implement it yourself. It could have taken months to sort of react to something like that. So yeah,
Absolutely. And that's
absolutely
really what the
amazing
last
time.
3 or 4 years, really what past 3 or 4 years have brought us, right? This really democratization of high level computing power.
Yeah. And so, I mean, can you tell us just a little bit about what brought you to Navigator Business Solutions?
Sure. Yeah. Very happy to do that. So it was about 6 years ago. I had known Navigator for years in the SAP ecosystem, which I've been a part of for since really 2003. And what really excited me about joining Navigator was that they were a very early adopter of cloud technology. And what they were using that cloud technology to do was to bring really high level ERP functionality that was usually reserved for the Fortune 1000, let's say, to small to mid-sized businesses. And so for me, it allowed me to again exercise that motto of, okay, cloud technology is cool, right? But let's look what we can do to help people enable their businesses and solve their business challenges, et cetera. And so that's really what attracted me. Very smart company, smart people, really customer focused, right? Not just really worried about selling software, but really worried about providing customers with outcomes. And so that was kind of a rare company back in that period of time. And so I've enjoyed my time here, and really we've enhanced that whole approach and paradigm towards starting to take that cloud approach into the life sciences industry, which I'm sure we'll talk about in just a bit.
So, I mean, whenever companies come to you, what do they look like? I guess, whenever being on the sales end of things, you probably really understand your customer persona and kind of, what exactly they would look like whenever they come to you. I could kind of envision, how they might be operating up to the point of coming to you,
Oh
but
yeah. Yeah.
would love to hear, sort of what does it look like when they come to you?
What it looks like is they are usually an early stage, perhaps a clinical trial type organization, life sciences organization, early stage, or approaching commercialization. They're running out of runway with their capacity to handle their business in QuickBooks or Peachtree or any of the kind of entry level accounting systems, and then this other huge system that they build around it called Excel. Um, Usually there's the foundations of a QMS, quality management system in place, because that's really how they're bridging the gap in understanding how to control their processes, et cetera. And what they usually find is that they're rapidly approaching a period in their life cycle where they need to put a platform in place, and it's a scary time for them, quite frankly. We're usually approached either by the CFO or somebody in regulatory. Those are the people who understand best that in order for the company to make that next step, the right platform needs to be in place. Um, it's a mixed bag, right? We deal in med device, biotech, gene therapy, pharma, et cetera. But usually their situation is all the same. They find that they're at that point where they're going to scale, right? Um, they're past being overly optimistic, and now they're confident that they're going to achieve, approval by the FDA, and so they know they need to get things in place.
And then, so in terms of the organizations themselves, I mean, it sounds very familiar to me because a lot of the organizations that we deal with as well on the consulting side are similar. They're at
I would
kind of
imagine,
that
yeah.
scaling point and adding resources like crazy and trying to figure out how are we going to manage all these people, how are we going to sort of bring our organization further forward. And it's funny that you mentioned, Excel, because I mean, even whenever you go to large pharma companies, I mean, they will still have some level of Excel, but they will have a stronger level of ERP behind it, right,
Right.
to support the organization. So, what sort of things does the software that you implement? I mean, I don't want to, bypass this, right? Because we might have people, watching or listening that, just really don't understand the systems that you would implement. So, what sort of systems, do you help them implement, and what does it do for the organization?
That's a really good question because the what people talk about is ERP, and unfortunately, our industry is just in love with all its acronyms, right? But think of ERP as systems that manage every aspect of your business, not just your financials and your sales and your customer relationship management, but also your inventory management, your track and traceability, your GM. What we provide is GMP quality manufacturing and production solutions integrated with quality management systems, all the way through delivery, warehouse management, and also network traceability for the pharma industry as well. So really, if you think about and touch any piece of a life science business, our solution provides a platform. If it doesn't solve it directly, it solves it with a very good integration to a best of breed solution. For instance, laboratory management information systems, right? LIMS. Those are beasts unto themselves. Those are very point solutions, and usually people will have a real uh, leaning towards one solution or another. What we need to be able to do is be able to produce output for that and take the input, consume the data from that as well. So the platforms that we provide are very open in terms of communicating with other systems.
Okay, thank you. And then what does the implementation look like as well? I mean, so you kind of described an entry level point where I would imagine, you have very rough data to work with, initially,
Yeah,
and then you're
yeah.
trying to, figure out how do I not sort of upset the apple cart and, slow their progress, but at the same time implement this system that's going to better enable them for the future.
Don, you're talking about managing organizational disruption, aka change management, right? It is something that we spend a lot of time on with our customers. So I think one of the challenges, you asked some later on what some of our challenges are, right? Some of the challenges that we face are that people are of the opinion that to put a system like this in place is up to a year and millions of dollars to implement. As I said, what I was excited about joining Navigator Business Solutions for was to be able to bring those types of solutions to the lower end of the market, not in a lower end meaning size, not disparaging, right? uh, so as we take a look at it, we've done projects where we've had startup life science companies where they needed to get financials right. They needed to get all their books off of QuickBooks. They needed to get a purchasing process in place that had appropriate control. And they needed to start managing their inventory and tracking and tracing things. In one instance, we were able to stand one of those companies up in 8 to 10 weeks. So that whole concept that it takes a lot of time and a lot of manpower to do, just is it's the cloud has really allowed it to be able to take more of a best of breed approach in solving those problems and getting rapid implementations done.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing a lot of times, after, doing this a few times and getting watching companies transition, from not having a system or having barely a system in place to something, much larger scale. um, you can see a fairly quick implementation process, and it's interesting to watch everything come off of these smaller based systems, to your point about not being disparaging, but also just really, every company goes through an evolution from
Right.
beginning to whatever stage that they want to be, and as a part of that, building scalable systems is really critical.
It is, and usually what we'll find is that it's the hiring of their CFO that will generally be the impetus to saying, okay, now we need, it's either the hiring of the CFO, or the CFO is, or they're going to go public, right? And they're contemplating an IPO, and that's when the gears get turning. Everything needs to get in place as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because normally, I mean, if they're going public, right, they're having external auditors come in. Those auditors are probably saying, "Hey, look, I mean, you can't have it like this. Whenever you go
You
public,
can't.
it can't be 50% of your financials can't be on sheets of paper. They have to be, traceable, and things like that. It just
Right.
not
Right.
going to bode well for you in the future. So yeah, so important.
No, it's not.
So you already jumped to the biggest challenges, but what are some of the biggest opportunities for Navigator?
I think the opportunities are endless, right? As we look at the post-COVID era, and the re-onshoring of the life sciences supply chain, really that impetus to gain more control over our own IP and technology. I mean, you yourself probably experienced this, right? The marketplace is exploding with new companies, a lot of them small, but a lot of people with tremendous ideas. And the opportunity is tremendous in those companies. And with that, though, comes some of the challenges, right? Because as we look at those opportunities, where 2 and 3 years ago people were raising capital and they wanted to get a platform in place well advance of commercialization. Now those CFOs are telling us, hold on, we need to conserve our capital, right? We're not able to raise it as easily as we were able to. So we need to conserve our capital, apply it to the science. That's what our board and our shareholders and stakeholders want. And they're trying to thread the needle of putting that platform, right, that business platform in place just at the right time before they need it to ramp up for commercialization. So again, opportunities are great. There's a lot of money flowing into the market. I think that, as you take a look at it, what we saw in 2022 was a lot of conservatism, right? A lot of people not quite knowing where the economy was going. And life sciences wasn't exempt from that, right? I'm sure you saw this as well. I've talked to a number of my colleagues, and and things like validation services and the like, and they said, wow, people really kind of put projects on hold or slow walk them. And now what we're seeing in early 23 is that people are starting to open up a little bit again, and we're starting to see the investment community come back to the market as well.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people that I, talk to on a weekly basis that, are saying now that they kind of envision that towards the end of 23 that, we'll start to see things open up even more coming into 24. But, these early months have been tough. I mean, I've seen, both large pharma companies as well as, the med device companies, making fairly deep cuts coming into the year. And
Mm-hmm.
so, projects and growth are, like you said, I mean, it's slow rolling right now. People are trying to make sure that they're going to continue to maintain that phase coming through the economy that we have.
Yeah, I mean, we have one pharma company that was investigating 23 different products, right? And now they cut that down to two. They said we just can't sustain that level of R&D, so they're kind of hunkering down, if you will, and waiting it out. So
Yeah, that was actually one of my very first consulting engagements was helping a company sort through, what specifically do we focus on through the pandemic, right? How do we sort
sure.
of weather the storm? And so
Hmm.
so we did, quite a bit of brainstorming sessions around, what are the right plays to make, and thankfully, they paid off, and
Yeah.
they really have helped them. And I would imagine, through 23, and especially whenever I look at a lot of the systems projects inside of pharma companies, they're enablers for the future. And so,
They are.
um, not investing in your future is something that's also not a very smart strategic move. So.
No, it's something that people believe you can always kind of push or delay, but at some point there's a cost of that delay, right? But as you're looking at the cost of capital, people are very concerned about that right now. So, but again, as I said, we're starting to see things open up. They are for projects in the latter half of the year. So it's kind of aligns with some of the comments you just made, that I think people are going to be more optimistic about 24 than they are about 23.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of the early stage companies that I'm talking to as well, they are still getting investment. So it's not like they're not, but they're having to be much more creative in terms of the ways that they think about, going out and getting investment, because traditional pitches to VCs or private equity firms, they're being conservative. At the same time, some of these, the people that have a stake in whatever diagnostic or medical device, being, coming to market, actually is one of the greatest places that we found investment. So yeah. So I mean, that's to me one of the greatest opportunities, as well as to just think a little bit more about where specifically should I go and present, to try and gain additional capital for my business.
Yeah, exactly. As we take a look at it, every segment's getting smaller, right? Each ask, right? The Series A's are getting smaller, the Series B's are getting smaller, the Series C's are getting smaller, right? So where people were able to raise through the first 4 rounds, $100 million, that's now becoming through the four $50 million. And so kind of that, I'm not going to say excess capital, but the abundance of capital that they were able to spend in different ways, such as creating their ERP platform, really they have to be a lot more conservative of, which is probably good,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's probably the result of the VCs and the private equity companies understanding now more about the industry, right? And they've probably had their amount, their certain amount of failures, and so now they can calibrate how much they want to put into something. They understand what the success model looks like, and can really provide a lot more governance over the funds that they're releasing.
Yeah. Well, Ralph, that brings us to the last three questions that I'd like to ask for the interview. First of all, what inspires you?
What inspires me is really getting up every day to see what technology can do to help companies, right? It's and really seeing the smart people trying to solve different problems. I mean, we have such a variety of customers in really cool industries, right? That are really trying to solve, game-changing problems. And so what inspires me is really working. What inspires me is what excites me, Don, right? So as you take a look at it, working with really smart people, being involved in helping enable businesses, a great word, enable businesses, to be able to accomplish their missions. I mean, we have customers that are mission based, where they're doing, developing vaccines for underserved regions of the world. We have people that are trying to eradicate cancer through ultrasonic type therapies that are non-invasive. We have companies that are doing gene therapy to solve, very rare diseases in children. I mean, it's just, you talk to these people, right? And it's so exciting to be able to talk about what their mission is, not just about what the solution is that, you're helping them buy, but really what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, it amazes me every day how brilliant the people are that I get to interact with. And that, I oftentimes get to, sort of, look at the fact that I'm probably the least intelligent person in the room compared to, all of these people that are trying to figure out how do I leverage the capabilities of the human body and leverage the science that I know to try and achieve some goal. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing to watch, for sure.
And meanwhile, return the right EBITDA to your investors.
Yes, for sure.
Right?
Absolutely. What concerns you?
What concerns me is really, as we saw the pullback of investment, right? I think what concerned me the most was the pullback of investment, to really, which started to degrade, if you will, kind of the creativity, or not the creativity, but the possibilities of what some of these organizations could accomplish. And what concerns me is that there's going to be companies that put off decisions, whether it be for business solutions, whether it be hiring, whatever, that really hamper their ability to achieve their full potential. So those are the things that worry me. I think that technology is always going to be an enabler. I think that a concern I have is that some people go too quickly and too trustingly, if you will, into the AI and machine learning world, right? And perhaps get bruised a bit in doing that. So really having the right timing of applying those technologies to solve whatever the business problems are that people are having, or that concerns me a little bit. I've been listening to a number of podcasts on that, because I think it's important that we're all educated about what it is. Get past the hype, understand what the true application of it is, understand the fact that all of that needs to be fully democratized, right, in a really objective way, right? You got to be aware that these things are made by humans, and so sometimes they take on some of the human biases. So you just have to be careful in embracing those technologies.
Yeah, and I think that comes along with almost everything that we have. I mean, I'll just go back to something simple, like reading articles on the internet. I was listening to Malcolm Gladwell the other day. He gave a talk about just kind of the amount of information that's out there about him. And he was just saying, look, if you go to my Wikipedia page, a good portion of that page is incorrect. It's not right.
Yeah.
But it's a good place to start. And from the things that you see there, you can then go investigate. And whenever I think of like ChatGPT, I mean, ChatGPT could be used to write an entire article. Will it be 100% correct? Absolutely not.
Absolutely
And
not.
you have to be smart about that, and at least know that, look, it can't do right now what we could do as humans, and do that additional research and make sure that things are accurate before they go out. So I agree with you.
It's a tool, not a total solution, is really the way you got to look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Last question: what excites you?
What excites me is what the future holds, right? Is not just in terms of technology, but in terms of life sciences, right? Where is the whole industry headed? There is no upper limit in my mind. So what I see some of our customers doing is really remarkable. And that's really just the start, right? The ability to cure rare diseases, to provide therapies to things that used to kill people regularly, medical devices that, again, an ultrasonic therapy to cure liver cancer. My God, there's no drugs, no surgery. I mean, what a remarkable thing. So, sometimes I think we're getting closer and closer to Dr. Spock on the Enterprise, where he just waved a wand over you and, you were instantly cured. And I think that, the longer you live, the more you start to see some of those things start to become true. So that's really what excites me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always amazed by what people come up with, and the technology that's out there. And so with that, Ralph Hess, thank you so much for coming today on the Life Science Success Podcast. I greatly appreciate you being here and sharing with us about the things that you're doing, and the capabilities that Navigator Business Solutions is providing to clients in the life sciences space. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. I really appreciate the opportunity. Enjoyed the talk.
Thank you for listening to Life Science Success. For complete details about this podcast, including show notes, how to get in touch with guests, and more episodes, please visit www.lifesciencesuccess.com. If there's someone you'd like for us to invite to the show as a guest, please let me know by sending me a message at the podcast website. Please click subscribe on your favorite podcast app, share the podcast, or tell a friend about it. And last but not least, rate the podcast. Thank you again.